good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I hope wherever you are in the world, it's been a good day already, and I think it's going to continue to be good moving forward. I'm excited. We're going to have Dominic Williams here today. We're having a little trouble getting him into the speaker role, so that actually gives me a great opportunity to welcome you to the first ever Multi-Chain Monday space. So this is a new series Dfinity is doing to highlight all the cross-chain and interoperability activity occurring within crypto. Our focus, there's going to be a focus on ICP. Obviously, there's a lot of great multi-chain activity occurring on ICP. So just talking multi-chains could be ICP, but we're not exclusive to ICP in this space. There's so much great stuff going on within crypto that we'll be happy to be reaching out to other projects and community and bringing people in. A great example of this is next week's space. So these spaces are going to be Mondays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific, and 5 p.m. Central European. Our next space next week will be with BTC Startup Lab, which is a Bitcoin economy incubation and acceleration program. So we're really excited to have them joining. Make sure you set your calendars for this time because you're going to want to keep up with all the trend going on in multi-chain. I'm excited. I see we got Dom back up as speaker. We got through the technical problems. We are kicking off this multi-chain series on a super high note. If you don't know Dom, you must be new to the space. I imagine most of the people listening to this are going to already know who Dom is, but he's the founder and chief scientist at Dfinity. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's an early contributor in the Ethereum community and is the leading voice in our industry with regards to decentralized cloud computing. Dom, do we have you?
You do. Can you hear me?
Oh, hear you. Great. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for the introduction too.
Yeah, I was looking forward to this all weekend, counting down the minutes. So this is going to be a highlight of my day for sure. So let's start with I mentioned the early days of Ethereum. There was this concept early on in Ethereum called the world computer. Ethereum kind of went down a different track, but that was a key part of like that basically planted a seed in your brain for this vision of a world computer. Can you kind of describe for us what that term world computer means?
Well, I think world computer can mean different things to different people, but for me, it meant that eventually most of our business logic, data, user experiences, and everything related to that will be running off a blockchain or blockchains. And the challenge, of course, was how do you achieve that when, at the time at least, blockchains are only capable of storing tiny amounts of data and performing tiny amounts of compute.
Yeah, so then that obviously, Ethereum kind of went in a direction that didn't scale for that vision, and that's, I guess, when you kind of went down your own path for the internet computer. Is the internet computer kind of the solution to that world computer vision?
Well, I hope so, and we've certainly built it to be. Back in the days, sort of 2014, 2015, when that term first came into being, I think it became apparent to everyone that just providing a blockchain that hosted smart contracts would be a huge achievement. And indeed, Ethereum has delivered incredible things in the field. We started with Bitcoin. Bitcoin hosted, the first value tokens, if you want to call them that, the first digital gold. And in that original design, you had very limited scripting capabilities. You could add access control scripts to balances of coins. Things like, multi-sig scripts that would require several different signatures to unlock. But when you move Bitcoin from one address to another, the scripts disappear. Okay, and one of the big change with Ethereum was that the scripts that run on the chain have their own address and they stay there. And if you like, the coins kind of move between the scripts. So it was a kind of reversal of that initial model. So instead of, there being these different balances of coins, UTXOs, which had access control scripts, and when you unlocked from those access control scripts to move the Bitcoin to another address, they disappeared. Now you have these things called smart contracts that have their own address, and balances of ether can move between these different smart contracts. So it's kind of reversed the model, and of course these scripts now became Turing complete, so you can have things like loops and in your code and implement far more complicated things. And the objectives were met, and Ethereum hosts pretty sophisticated DeFi these days. But my own personal sort of interest in this idea of a world computer was a bit different. I wasn't so focused on DeFi specifically. I was more into the idea that a blockchain could replace traditional IT, and that eventually, you could build a social network, for example, on a blockchain and place it under the control of a DAO, so that you could have things like social networks run by communities composed of, users, investors, developers, and they'd be completely autonomous and transparent. All of the updates to the social network code would have to go through the DAOs. And you could give out these governance tokens to users to help with things like content moderation and so on. So that was a different kind of vision. And back in 2015, I've been hard at work at that for well over a year on the math behind, new math that you could use to create scalable blockchains. Increasingly, I've begun to focus on how can you create blockchain that can act essentially as a kind of cloud, a cloud for smart contracts. And it became, apparent it was going to take much, it was going to involve a major R&D effort and was going to take quite a long time to deliver. It actually took a lot longer to deliver than I'd anticipated. And there's a maxim in Silicon Valley, which is never mistake a clear view for a near thing. That was certainly the case with Divinity and the Internet Computer Project. So eventually, we launched the Internet Computer. I think as of today, there are easily more than 1,000 person years of research and engineering in the code and the science that creates the Internet Computer. And it's a completely, reimagined, re-architected blockchain. It's shared nothing. So generally speaking, there's a lot of commonality between blockchains. And in the case of the Internet Computer, that's not really true. Almost everything is completely different. And it's been designed with one, clear focus, which is to deliver this world computer vision. Now, for us, part of that vision isn't just having a blockchain that can, host vast amounts of data and vast amounts of computation. It's also about creating a blockchain that can seamlessly integrate other blockchains without bridges, so that you get sort of one cryptographic whole, trustless whole. And that technology first sort of came into production on Internet Computer early this year with Chainkey Bitcoin, and now we're working hard on Ethereum, Ethereum integration. But integration here doesn't mean like connecting the Internet Computer to Ethereum via a bridge. It means that Internet Computer nodes talk to Ethereum nodes, and integration, at the code level, the smart contract level, is trustless and based on math, not upon some company forwarding messages back and forth or something like that.
I love that definition of a world computer as just basically reinventing the IT tech stack, but from a blockchain focus. You were very you were very clear when you said blockchains. You pluralized it, obviously, and then talked about the vision isn't just for one blockchain, but rather many different blockchains and then having them being able to seamlessly communicate with each other's. Is that vision primarily because then a specific blockchain can be optimized for a use case or a feature, and then so you can have different blockchains optimized for different purposes, and then the internet computer can kind of serve as the gateway to for communication between them?
Well, yeah. Look, so first of all, blockchain is a kind of stateful decentralized network. And I say stateful, it means that the blockchain maintains a consistent state. So, in the case of Bitcoin, that's the UTXO, the balances of Bitcoin. In the case of Ethereum, that's also the state of the smart contracts and so on. And there are lots of different ways to design these kinds of networks, and all of them involve, design choices that are made according to trade-offs. So, I think that the blockchain space will consolidate enormously over time. I don't think we're going to have thousands of major blockchains, but I do think there'll be lots of specialized chains. I also think, over time, enterprises will also run their own kind of private chains that they're going to want to integrate with public chains and things like that. And that might even be where the larger number of chains come from in the future. But the question is, how should these different chains work together? So, with Chainkey Bitcoin, we created a Bitcoin twin, and essentially you can send Bitcoin on the Bitcoin chain to this Chainkey Bitcoin address, and you got Chainkey Bitcoin. And once you got Chainkey Bitcoin, you can send it to another Chainkey Bitcoin wallet address, literally near zero cost, and with 1 second finality. And you can also use it within, for example, SocialFi built on the internet computer. So OpenChat is a 100% on-chain chat service. The user experience is on chain, the chat messages are on chain, etc. And you can have Chainkey Bitcoin in your chat account, and you can send Chainkey Bitcoin with a chat message. What's cool about Chainkey Bitcoin is you can send it directly to a standard Bitcoin address, and there's no intermediary, there's no bridge. It's just pure cryptography, and essentially, the internet computer is using this. Listeners may have heard about it. This Chainkey cryptography, Chainkey technology, whatever you want to call it, and it's able to sign transactions that run on other blockchains without having a private key. So essentially, behind the scenes, there's a kind of threshold cryptography thing going on, but it's a lot more complicated than that. But we started off working with Bitcoin. Now, if you've got the MyLuga app in Lugano, which is one of the, if not the first municipality in Europe to integrate Bitcoin into their official sort of framework, they support Chainkey Bitcoin, and I can't talk about it, but you're going to see some major expansion of that, I think, in the coming months. And then now we're working on Ethereum integration, and to understand some of the potential of that. Look, Ethereum is arguably the world's DeFi rails. It's going to be like the world's DeFi settlement there, and it's just very well established. It's got an incredible community and so on. But Ethereum's limitations are going to persist, and layer twos can ameliorate them, but they can't really fix some of them. So if you want to store a phone photo, photo you take with your phone, which is about 3.3 megabytes, at the end of 21, it would have cost you like $110,000 to store a single phone photo on Ethereum. And in actual fact, it's not even technically possible. It would take you several weeks to upload the phone photo. And a lot of people are unaware of those kind of limitations. Even Solana at the end of that year, I think it was like $420 a year just to store one phone photo. And again, not even clear it would be technically possible to get that phone photo onto Solana. So this, more traditional chains can only store tokens NFTs, of course, the actual NFT content isn't on the blockchain. It's just a link to the content, which is more often than not actually stored on Amazon Web Services. Um, and DeFi logic, which doesn't involve much computation or data. It's just processing numbers. So there's no way you can actually build something like a social network on Ethereum, and L2s aren't going to change that. Your smart contracts on Ethereum also can't process HTTP, which means they can't create user experiences directly. And actually, if you want to, create something like a social network, you need to be able to process all this user information to create news feeds. And that's structured information. You need to have that inside the smart contracts. So with the Ethereum integration, it would be possible to build out the user experience and all of the heavy duty data processing and data storage on the internet computer, and keep the sort of the Fi component of social Fi on Ethereum. And these two networks can a smart contract on the internet computer will be able to call into a smart contract on Ethereum and vice versa. And so we're working towards that. And the nice thing with that architecture is you don't get genuine full decentralization. And now you've got, the world computer model where something like a social network runs on the blockchain. Listeners need to, may or may not be, I'm sure a lot are, but familiar that, we've got this language in blockchain, built on Ethereum, built on Solana, built on Avalanche. It doesn't really mean that. What it means is, if you're talking about a metaverse or a game or a social Fi project, something like that, what it really means is that's really, if you've got any, serious, data processing or storage and or typically a user experience, even though you can put an IPS, but if you've got like a dynamically created user experience, that's generally on Amazon Web Services currently. And the blockchain is just used to store tokens and NFTs, right? And then, at some key point in in your participation in the game, it's going to oh, you want to buy this NFT, and then it kind of bumps you out into like, for example, a MetaMask experience, and then you make the transaction in MetaMask, and then you're back in the game. But behind the scenes, the developers of the game, they have the username and password to the Amazon Web Services account, and they can log in and they can arbitrarily change the rules, arbitrarily change your content, and so we believe better architecture for the future is one that's fully decentralized, and user experience, data storage and computation is all on chain on the internet computer, typically under the control of a special kind of DAO we have on the internet computer called service nervous system, and therefore end-to-end autonomous. And then you've got like DeFi rails, for example, on Ethereum, that kind of thing. And so that's I think a good example of where we want to go. And you get a complete you end up with a completely different kind of service where everything's autonomous, runs under the control of a DAO. Users can be incentivized, with governance tokens in the DAO, that kind of thing. And ultimately, that community that has those governance tokens in the DAO are owners. The actual owners of this entire service. And so, one really simplified way of thinking about what we've been trying to achieve all along is like, look, Bitcoin gave you ownership of value. That was Satoshi's innovation. Like, you could directly own this digital value. Nobody could take it away from you unless you put it on Mt. Gox or allow someone to steal your private key, right? You owned that Bitcoin and it was yours so long as, you looked after the private key. Ethereum, started putting data and computation onto the blockchain. And, where things can be really decentralized, like Uniswap, just creates these stamps out Uniswap 1, 2, 3, and so on. Like, there's a community of people who actually, own these tokens and really have direct ownership of that. What we wanted was, to help the world reach a place where, something like a social network or a game or a metaverse or whatever it is can be like a Bitcoin too, right? On the blockchain, autonomous, nobody's got backdoor access to it. and essentially it's owned by the governance token holders in DAO, which automates the entire process of updating the service. So, people submit software updates to the DAO, and if the community wants them, it pushes them, and everything's transparent, and there's no backdoor, either for the developers or for regulators or for hackers or anybody else. All just pure blockchain. And we think that's the future. We think that's what Web3 is all about, giving people ownership, direct ownership. And you can only really do that on a blockchain. And when I say on a blockchain, I don't mean like the way we use that expression today. I mean, where everything's really on Amazon Web Services, you just got tokens and snippets of data on the blockchain. Real ownership comes from everything being completely on the blockchain under the control of a DAO, for example.
That's an amazing answer, Dom. You went down. There's so many different things I wrote down of channels to go down out of that, and I think one of the things I want to focus on, though, that you were talking about the user experience, and that's obviously been probably the biggest hindrance in crypto's adoption to begin with. Is the user experience isn't great. It requires you to invest some time into learning how to use an application. You have to buy a token typically to interact with the application. That doesn't exist in the traditional internet, right? I don't buy Google's token to do a Google search. That's kind of a crazy thing. But you had mentioned about CKBTC and seamlessly being able to, you can just send it to a Bitcoin wallet, and it's going to automatically do that conversion for you. You don't have to go swap it. I wouldn't have to tell my mom that here's how you get from Bitcoin to CKBTC, and then from CKBTC back to Bitcoin, and here's the difference. From her experience, she could just use an app and experience it naturally. Is that kind of how you see the direction of the industry going, to where from the user experience, a lot of that complication gets abstracted away, and all they know is they're kind of using?
Yeah. So that's always been part of the kind of my world computer vision. And if anyone's interested, they can go to the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive, and type in Definity.io, and you'll see the Definity website from 2015. And we're talking about ledgers that can scale out infinitely and host things like Gmail. Can you imagine if every single time you wanted to send an email, you had to do a transaction in MetaMask? You'd lose your mind, right? So, the internet computer is a walletless architecture, and other chains can benefit from integrating and get the same thing. So, first of all, the internet computer has something called a reverse gas model. So, when you're interacting with Bitcoin, and more importantly, Ethereum, or Solana or Avalanche, or whatever it is, whenever you have to manually create transactions using a wallet, and you specify how much you want to pay for that transaction to run. Essentially, there's a current gas exchange rate. It's like a fee market, and you specify how much you're going to pay for the gas. On the internet computers, it works a bit differently. So the smart contracts, they're called canister smart contracts. Very different to traditional smart contracts. They pay for their own computation. So they're more like, the code is more like an electric car. Say that you have a Tesla, you charge it up with electricity. The car drives around. If it runs out of electricity, it stops moving. You charge it up with some more electricity, you can drive it again. That's how internet computer smart contracts work. They're charged with these things called cycles. And when they perform computation, they burn their way through the cycles. And you can keep chopping it up, or the service can top up cycles in the smart contracts itself, or whatever. And if it runs out, if one of these smart contracts runs out of cycles, it just stops, processing transactions, but anybody can send more cycles and start working again. Anyway, that architecture is very important because it means that people can directly interact with these smart contracts without needing tokens. And that also means that you can create something called crypto sessions. So typically, internet computer users don't interact with the wallet unless they're managing tokens for some other purpose. If you're using OpenChat, for example, you've actually created a crypto session with the smart contract. Okay, so you authenticate with the open chat. This is the chat service, the open chat smart contracts using internet identity. And within that secure session, the open chat front end, once it's loaded into your browser, is creating transactions on your behalf and sending them to the internet computer. Very large numbers of transactions. And the internet computer is processing them and sending back the results, and they're being verified by the user experience. And it's all transparent. The user's just created a crypto session. And OpenChat itself is paying for the computation. Now, of course, OpenChat can make money in various ways. It's social fi, so you can also use OpenChat as a way of transferring crypto, and it can charge small transaction fees and things like that. But from the user's perspective, they don't even need a wallet. They just need an internet identity, which takes only a few seconds to set up. And bingo, you use your internet identity to create an account on OpenChat, and every time thereafter you use it to authenticate. And it's completely seamless. And people will type in oc.app to go to OpenChat, and then select their current internet identity anchor, and typically authenticate using Face ID, fingerprint, something like that. And they can do that from multiple devices, and bingo, they're in. And that's the last time they have to worry about authentication. If you try to do that with a traditional, I'm assuming that a traditional blockchain was capable of hosting, chat messages, and one transaction per chat message, and serving user experiences. Assuming that was possible, which it's not today, but assuming it was possible, every time you wanted to send a chat message, you'd have to open up MetaMask, type how much ether you're willing to pay, press send, and all that kind of stuff, and it'd be unbearable. On the internet computer, it's all just hidden within this crypto session, and Ethereum can leverage, with the integration, we'll be able to leverage exactly that same functionality. And in fact, to demonstrate this, we created something called the Oisy wallet. And of course, you're probably guessing Oisy wallet is a wallet that's not a wallet. It's a walletless wallet. And it runs on the internet computer, but it processes ETH and ERC20 on the Ethereum blockchain. So it's very, very cool. You go to oisy.com. It's still alpha. We haven't launched it yet, but it works. I've got a bunch of stuff in my wallet. It's a web page, but it's a wallet. But it works with Uniswap and everything like that. And you just authenticate with your fingerprint with II. It already improves things. Like I have to use MetaMask on my mobile phone, and it's a pain, right? Because I'm using it with the Gnosis Safe wallet, whatever, to help somebody with like custody signing. And you open the MetaMask app on your phone, and then you have to open a sub browser, and in the sub browser you have to go to the DeFi site, and then it connects. But it's a real pain and clunky to use. Like with Oisy, you just type in oisy.com in your phone browser, opens, open another tab, go to Uniswap app, press connect wallet, and copy the ID that it gives you across back into Oisy, and bingo, it's connected, and you can now trade on Uniswap. No app in sight. And by the way, there's multiple reasons that's important. One obviously is just the user experience of being forced to open the app and then open a sub window inside the app. That's just horrible. But the bigger reason is that the apps we download are all by the grace of big tech. Like MetaMask has been banned from the Chrome Web Store several times in the past. We're told it's by accident, but recently it disappeared from the Apple App Store. And any time Google, Apple could just say no more MetaMask, and that would be it. No one could access the Ethereum wallet would be gone. But of course, Oisy is delivered into a browser by the smart contract, the Oisy smart contracts that process HTTP. It's fingers crossed. We're not anywhere near a situation right now where big tech would ban Web3 services at specific URLs. So There are a bunch of benefits. One is user experience. The other one is it's more decentralized and censorship resistant.
Yeah, I love Oyster Wallet is a great example of like the native use case where you can just open up your web browser and just start using it without having to sit and research and try to understand what the product actually is. You had brought up you'd mentioned reverse gas fee, and I was thinking about this weekend. I've always found it extremely weird and strange from like a market efficiency standpoint that we have this level of maximalism and tribalism within crypto in terms of you can only use apps that are built on the chain that I think is it's weird. Like nobody gets mad over somebody using Bing over Google, but yet you might get mad over somebody using one chain's NFT project and not another chain's NFT project. Is that you mentioned reverse gas fee, and I'm wondering if that's just because of the nature of gas fees, right? The fact that you need the chain specific token to use any application on that chain almost drives you down a user experience that makes you have to fully commit to that specific chain. And that maybe going to an approach of a reverse gas fee actually frees it up. So the developer covers the cost.
Totally, yeah. Totally. Look, I should be careful what I say because I'll get myself, I have these controversial opinions. I could get myself into deep water. But, I mean, the blockchain industry today, the primary business models involved aren't that much to do with decentralization, really. They tend to be more about, you generate, you get a community excited about this or that blockchain, and then oftentimes this is a bit of a flywheel effect, right? Where you get some big VCs who invest into the ecosystem and make some big announcements, and then the token goes up, and the foundation or the company or whatever it is can sell some tokens, got more money to make more investments, and part of that has always been locking people into this or that wallet and things like that, and that's okay. I mean, it's like if there weren't in the early days of Bitcoin, if people weren't tribal about it, if there weren't Bitcoin maximalists who would hodl again through thick and thin, Bitcoin would never have taken off in the way it did, and without Bitcoin, we wouldn't have had Ethereum or Internet Computer or anything else. So I think there are certain positive benefits of that kind of tribalism, but at the same time, I think when you're creating, when thinking about Web3 and how we engage the billions, not just the millions in the Web3 ecosystem, ultimately we got to go further than simple things like NFTs, and we've got to deliver real decentralization where people can become real owners, and that means putting things on chain. Ultimately, there's a lot of people out there who will tell you, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that it's all on Amazon Web Services and just the tokens are on the blockchain. It doesn't matter. Users don't care. I actually dispute that. I think the reasons that they don't care is because they don't understand that's what's happening. And we've done surveys and we found that the vast majority of retail investors, institutional investors, including VCs, crypto journalists, mainstream media journalists, when they hear like built on blockchain XYZ, they actually think that's what's going on, right? And they don't understand, that, for example, there's a bunch of insiders who've got these usernames and passwords on Amazon. Amazon can turn it off. Let it really have real ownership. So I think over time people become more educated and more discerning. And look, if to go from where we are today to getting billions of users on board, we're going to have to do much more creative things. Like NFTs only get us so far. We need to, NFTs give people ownership over a digital asset like a piece of art. They're fantastic. They revolutionized how artists can generate money and funded all this new creativity, and they're great. But look, imagine how much further we can go. Imagine that, if you like, these tokens are like, voting instruments. Like you're getting part ownership over these without an intermediary over these on-chain, social media sites, game sites, metaverses, and so on. And then part of that's going to be that to make that possible, that tokenization can be completely seamless. you can't really do seamless tokenization using the traditional wallet model. Um, and I mean, the way to understand the difference is like, you know, go to open chat, get an account in open chat. Every single chat message you send to someone is a transaction. And if you load your open chat account with some crypto, um, say for example you put some chunky Bitcoin like the Bitcoin twin in your open chat account, I can say, hey Kyle, here's 1,000 satoshis. And you can send a text message back to me and say, hey Bob, here's 1,001 satoshis, okay? And we can get some kind of streak of pinging satoshis back and forth. Um, there's it wouldn't even be possible if every time we wanted to transfer some satoshis to each other, we had to sort of be bounced out into MetaMask and do some fiddly transaction and specify how much gas we're going to pay. Um, Now imagine something like Hotanaut. So Hotanaut it's an early alpha. It's a kind of TikTok in the web browser, um, and they've got like really ambitious plans for the tokenomics. So essentially, people who create viral videos get rewarded for creating viral videos. Any user can bet their hot tokens or on whether a video is going to go viral or not, create signal. Eventually, you'll be able to get rewarded for doing the same for content moderation. So if enough people flag it and you're one of the first, then you get some reward. Um, that kind of super pervasive, super sophisticated, rich tokenization that's the future of Web3 isn't possible with the wallet model because there are too many events that involve tokens. It needs to be completely seamless. So, um, I think the wallets have their place. They're fantastic for a lot of stuff. And I think that's again when we come back to like the importance of multi-chain universe. But it's certainly the case that it's possible to have a DeFi wallet on Ethereum that's walletless, right? And have it work with things like Uniswap. So just look at Oisy.com. So um, we think that we think that it's going to be very important. And any chain. I mean, we're mainly focused on Ethereum right now, but in principle, any chain will be able to leverage these capabilities. Create a metaverse or a game or a social fi site or whatever it is that runs 100% from blockchain. With key parts of it under the control of a DAO. You can even have the DAO on the internet computer because it can do its cross-chain capabilities will enable it to configure smart contracts and other chains. Um, and have tokenization where there's no wallet involved, right? It's just happens completely seamlessly within these secure crypto sessions. So yeah, that's kind of our world computer vision. We think it's sort of we're wanting to move the whole space on into a place where we can create much more sophisticated Web3.
Yeah, you're talking about this idea that really, and maybe I'll zoom out even just to say blockchain in general. Like the purpose of blockchain is that you can build things that cannot be built on the traditional tech stack of the internet or cloud computing or however you want to define it. The point is that you should be able to build innovative apps utilizing key features of the blockchain like security, digital ownership, decentralization, that kind of aspect. Are you seeing, and that almost even gets to the multi-chain thesis as well, is that, hey, that innovation can occur even more so by leveraging the special features of multiple blockchain that are optimized for their own specific use cases. Are you seeing anything out there that kind of, you mentioned like Hot or Not as a great example of a TikTok that incorporates like a tokenization mechanism to help both with the algorithm of content as well as provide incentives for using and interacting with the app. But are you seeing other innovative uses of blockchain that solves problems that the traditional tech stack can't solve today?
Well, look, I think any sophisticated service, or rather, I should say, any online service, web application, whatever you want to call it, that wants to use, like sophisticated and pervasive tokenization, really. can't run on traditional tech. I think that's a big misunderstanding. So if you think about hot or not for a moment, if you were, you could certainly implement something that looked like hot or not using Amazon Web Services. But the problem is that you'd have to have all these hot wallets um, inside the Amazon Web Services account, or even just use like a MySQL database to maintain the token balances, and then you'd be able to you know do this kind of seamless tokenization where people don't need wallets. But the problems with that architecture are pretty obvious. I mean, that would mean that whoever can get access to the Amazon Web Services account, whether it be somebody working at Amazon Web Services, whether it be the developers who've got the username and password to the Amazon Web Services account, or whether it be a hacker that somehow manages to get their way in because of a software misconfiguration, or they, stole the username and password of the user, or whatever it is, right? Then they could drain the hot wallet. And we've seen this kind of thing happen over and over again in crypto. I mean, billions and billions and billions of dollars of crypto have been stolen that way. So it's just not an option. If people want to create this kind of richly tokenized, seamlessly tokenized Web3, it has to be fully on chain. The other piece is also the other important piece is that that's the only way to give ownership to online communities. Web3 is all about giving ownership to individuals and communities. So what's a Bitcoin? It's a digital token. There are a limited number of these tokens, 21 million, and you can own them or some portion of one or whatever, and it's yours. You own it directly. You control it with your private key. But with smart contracts, the ownership can be more complicated. Recently, it's been pretty simple. Like NFTs, like, hey, I've got an NFT, and it gives me ownership of this Bored Ape or whatever. But Web3 is going to go much further than that. Web3 will, in the end, be about giving online communities ownership and control over things like social networks and games and metaverses and so on. And that's really profound. There won't be companies involved. There'll be a DAO controlling these things. That's already happening on the internet computer. Like, this is very, we've got this thing called a service nervous system, which is very sophisticated kind of DAO that I suppose is roughly analogous to GitHub in the repo world, right? So if you've got an open source project, people might be using Git to collaboratively update it, right? And in the Web3 online world, you can use a service nervous system on the internet computer to collaboratively update a running Web3 service. Because there aren't any backdoors, that means that the community has real ownership of that service. And then, of course, once you've got that, you've got a certain amount of regulatory protection then, because it's running as a protocol, just like a blockchain. It's not, the token isn't like something that might be called a security that a company essentially is creating on a server or something like that. Like, the whole thing is running end-to-end decentralized, like a protocol, like a blockchain. And it can't be hacked, stuff can't, and the tokens can't be drained. It's completely transparent. Proposals go through the DAO, and that's how the code is updated directly. And that I think is where we're going. And then, of course, once you've got something like that, you can also you can also mint new governance tokens and give them out as rewards to users, and make your users into a kind of vast industrial workforce. So you can create these decentralized economies. So you start saying, right, well, whoever creates viral content that gets enough views or likes, whatever it is, they get rewarded with governance tokens. Whoever helps moderate content, whoever helps XYZ, or whoever helps promote the service on TikTok, if they get more than this many views on their video, they can submit a link to it to the DAO and get rewarded for doing it. That I think is the future of online services. And the internet computer not only makes it possible to build those kind of online services, but makes it possible to do that in a multi-chain way.
It's phenomenal, and it gives me a lot of hope for crypto in general, or our industry in terms of just building applications that either solve real problems or differentiate themselves from what's been built on the internet over the last, let's say, 10 years. It does strike me that the internet itself had a lot of this innovation, whether it was SaaS in the late 2000s, early 10s kind of period of time. We had the gig economy form, with Uber kind of kicking that off. So you had this great innovation up till maybe, I don't know, 2015, 2016 kind of time frame. And then it seems like the internet, for the most part, has kind of just become, I would say like TikTok has been one of the more innovative things, and that's just taking short videos and making them shorter. Um, and so I'm wondering, like, what excites you most for what our industry is going to provide for the 95% of the world that isn't using crypto yet? What are like the products or the features that you think the industry is going to bring and deliver to those users to onboard them?
Well, so what if you go down the fully decentralized route and you've got everything fully on chain, you get rid of the need for trust, or a lot of the need for trust, and that's going to really help people around the world in countries that want to contribute to the online space and create you know the next generation of internet services. But where there aren't any venture capitalists, because they're going to be able to lean on decentralized funding sources, crowdfunding. Um, so, I'm an engineer, what you call it, engineering entrepreneur. I've been making things for like, God help me, more than 30 years. Um, and, originally I was based in London. I'm now in Zurich, but I spent 10 years in Silicon Valley. No, I went to Silicon Valley primarily because, you've got great network effects with respect to people working in the field, but also you've got much easier access to venture capital. And it's getting a bit better in Europe, but it's still, nowhere near as, the access to capital is nowhere near to Silicon Valley levels. But, imagine being like a super talented, entrepreneur based someone like Lagos. And a lot of these, like, a lot of the sort of developing world is like, sprouting like talented engineers. And the question is, like, how do you get venture capital there? And like, I think the Web3 like offers the 99% of the world, or more than 99% of the world outside Silicon Valley, a path in tech to a sort of democratization of the tech economy, where there's now a way to bootstrap new kinds of services and fund those projects. And that relies really heavily, I believe, on having things fully on chain. So, explain, like, imagine you've got some guy in Lagos and he creates some prototype and it's on Amazon Web Services. Like, how are you going to convince people to invest in it? I mean, people aren't even going to trust the banks over there. There's just no way people are going to start wiring in money or something like that. Um, and we saw what happened with, like, the ICOs that took place in 2017, 2018. Oftentimes, people just took the money and ran away. So, he or she is going to need a way that they can remove some of the trust that's required. So on the internet computer, for example, you could create a fully online alpha version of the service you're building. People can access that service and evaluate it, and they can interact with you on social media and evaluate your vision and so on, see if they get excited by it. And on the internet computer, they can do what's known as a decentralization swap, where control over the smart contracts that create that service is handed to something called a service nervous system, which is a kind of DAO, which, as I mentioned, is this framework for controlling a running service in the same way something like Git controls access to a code repo. And at that point, this process, the decentralization swap, will sell these governance tokens for other cryptos, and the proceeds are actually kept inside the service nervous system DAO under the control of the community thereafter. And the voting power of the founders, governance tokens, are handicapped, so they don't have control. And the purpose is to obviously prevent the kind of problem that we saw with ICOs and remove the need for trust. So ultimately, if people are really excited by the work that's been done and the vision, and they decide to participate and swap their crypto for governance tokens, and for whatever reason, the people that created that project don't perform or dishonest or whatever the problem is, you can literally just maintain control of the treasury and maybe bring in some other developers as a community. So the advantage of that is that if you're somebody in the developing world who doesn't have venture capital, you can raise funds for your project, and partly that's about being connected to the decentralized ecosystem, of course, and this new internet, where you've got tokenized value, so people can just swap one token for another. But it's also about removing the trust that would otherwise be required by creating an algorithmic framework that's tamper-proof, that doesn't have any back doors, whereby if I see this team of guys in Lagos and they've got this really great idea and they've created this great prototype and they do the decentralization swap, it's going to assign all the code to an SNS, and I decide I'm going to participate in this swap and swap some ICP for those governance tokens, I can be sure that all the ICP that was raised is now inside that DAO, and if those developers for whatever reason just melt away, don't seem to solve false promises, whatever it is, I can, the community can sort of take back control. So there's that kind of safeguard, and that's only possible because it's end to end decentralized. There aren't any backdoors. There's no hot wallet someone can get to by logging into Amazon Web Services or something like that. So that's where I want Web3 to be. I want to democratize access. I want to see access to the tech ecosystem democratized, so that this vast amount of talent that's currently locked out can begin to participate, and the result of that will be this huge amount of new innovation and creativity, entering the space and making the internet ecosystem far richer, as well as, I hope, allowing tech as an industry to be more redistributed.
I love it. I love it. Everyone listening, you've been hearing Dom talk a lot about the multi-chain world, all that it's going to bring for the industry, as well as for the mass adoption of our industry. If you know people need to hear this message, go ahead and just give a share on the space, and let's get more people in on this message. I have seen a lot of projects that are multi-chain request to speak. Go ahead and reach out to me over a DM. Shoot me a DM, and let's talk about getting you on the calendar for the multi-chain Mondays. For now, though, Dom, I'm wondering, we're running out of time here, and I was hoping you could kind of close us off with a level of excitement, something for people to look forward to in 2024. We're approaching the holiday season here in the U.S., and people start thinking about their resolutions and what they're hoping for the next year. What's the one thing everyone listening here should be the most excited about for next year and keep an eye on?
I mean, look, if you ask me that question, Carl, we definitively we've got like hundreds of engineers and researchers working relentlessly, trying to improve the internet computer. So I have to, I have to talk about that. But I think I do think
I recognize I just asked you to tell me who your favorite kid is.
So before I get back to that, which makes me sound very partisan, but more broadly, I think I'm just keeping my fingers crossed this hideous crypto winter is possibly thawing. I despite everything that's happened, in the last couple of years, and we've certainly had a bumpy ride. I believe in the crypto blockchain mission, more than ever. And with respect to the internet computer and the kinds of things we're doing, I do think multi-chain, the continuing improving power of internet computer multi-chain is going to deliver some very interesting things. I think particularly in the Ethereum space, it's taken long. We're sort of incrementally delivering, but I think we're going to get there not too distant future, and I'm super excited about that. There's also some other interesting things on the horizon. I think I mentioned on Twitter recently. Hopefully about 6 months away from something called VET keys. VET keys is an acronym that came from Divinity cryptographers, but that provides a way of keeping the state of the data, the user data, content, whatever of Web3 services on the Internet Computer blockchain in encrypted form, and to provide an access list so that different people can get keys to decrypt it with, and it's decrypted obviously in the browser. So that's big. Obviously AI. I'm one of the things that we've been working on is looking at how the internet computer can work with AI. I think that's another area that's very exciting. So I think there's just lots coming. Oh gosh, the other thing. Sorry, the only thing to mention. This is actually an important one. Is, we're going to create a spin-out called Utopia that uses ICP tech to create kind of enterprise systems. Utopia stands for Unstoppable Tamper-Proof Open Platform for Independent Autonomy. It's like private clouds, where of course you build using smart contracts. And the cool thing with this is that a lot of enterprises and governments aren't ready to build a public networks yet, but they can use technology. They are interested in using this technology to create these kind of unstoppable tamper-proof cloud platforms where you build with this kind of next generation smart contract technology. But in the end, when they want to make those systems on those different utopias interoperable, they're going to need to register them with the Internet Computer. And probably they'll do that by burning some ICP, and I think that'll be good for the network. So I think Utopia is going to be hugely important.
I love that. I'm a big fan of Utopia. I can't wait to see as we develop that, as more and more information comes out on that. So everyone, keep your eyes on Mondays. This is when we're going to talk multi-chain. And Dom, I thank you so much for kicking this off with us. Awesome talking with you.
And by the way, Carl, just so thanks for everyone. I'm amazed. I think it says here a huge number of listeners. Thanks to everyone tuning in. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing you on next Monday. Have a good day.
Super. Bye, guys. Bye.